If you're out here making wigs and every single one of them looks the same, bad construction, same texture, same flat layers, same stiff curls that do not move, it's not because you're bad at wig making. It's because nobody has told you what actually changes when you've done this over 100 times. I've made over 100 wigs, custom wigs, client wigs, wigs for revamp, wigs for my courses, wigs that I've taught over 5,000 students on how to build a business around this craft. And there are things I know now about hair texture, about construction, about products that I wish someone had sat me down and told me before I learned the hard way. So that's exactly what I'm doing today. I'm giving you every major lesson, no fluff, just what actually matters. And some of these are going to surprise you. So let me start with something that took me way too long to figure out. When I first started, I thought hair was hair. You buy a good quality bundles, you sew them down, you style them, you construct them, and you make them into a beautiful wig, right? Wrong. Because what I didn't understand is the origin of hair changes every single thing about the final look. When I layer Indian hair, like proper raw Indian hair, the way that it falls, the way that it moves, is completely different from your Southeast Asian hair, like your Burmese hair, your Vietnamese hair. And both of these, they look completely different from Chinese hair. But here's the thing. Chinese hair isn't raw, so I'm not going to be comparing those two in the same category. The comparison that matters for me is Indian versus Southeast Asian. They're both raw, they're both high quality, but the texture, the body, the way that it responds to styling is completely different. So when a client sends you a picture that it wants this exact look, you need to understand that the softness and the movement of a raw Indian bundle cannot always be replicated with a Southeast Asian bundle, and vice versa. Now, it's going to look very similar, not too far off, but there will be difference, especially when it comes to the texture and the overall look of the wig. The lesson here, know your origin, because the texture you start with will determine the look that you end up with. And if you don't know this, you will keep blaming your skills when it's actually your hair selection. But knowing your texture is only half the battle, because even if you pick the perfect hair and you skip this next step, the wig is not going to look great. This sounds so basic and most people skip it, and that's exactly why the wigs don't look right. When your hair arrives, whether it's from your vendor, whether it's been sitting in the packaging, there is dust, there is residue, and sometimes the vendor has washed it, but honestly, not enough. What do most people do? They go straight in, they start adding products, they start curling, they start styling on top of hair that isn't even clean. That's like putting makeup on your face without actually washing your face. It's not going to sit right, it's not going to last, and then you're going to wonder why your wig looks lifeless and dull after 2 days. Wash your wigs or bundles before you style them. And I don't mean a quick rinse, I mean a proper wash, shampoo, deep conditioner, add a mask just to ensure that your hair doesn't lack moisture. You want to start with a clean base so that every product you add after actually does its job. Honestly, washing your wigs is literally one of the most essential parts of styling process. Now, speaking of the hair that gives people problem, let's talk about the one texture that humbles even experienced wig makers. If you've ever worked with Indian hair, like proper raw Indian hair, you know exactly what I'm about to say. Indian hair has a reputation, and that reputation is frizz. Now, let me be fair, Southeast Asian hair can also get frizzy. But here's the difference. With Southeast Asian hair, the frizz is easily tamed. You can work with it, you can actually smooth it out without a fight. Just one product can just do the job in like 1 second. But here's the real issue. Some clients don't actually want their hair to look like proper human hair. They want raw hair, but they don't want that proper human hair look. Because proper human hair requires more maintenance. It behaves like, well, real hair. And some people, they want raw hair, something that they control on without having to think about it. And there's nothing wrong with that. You just need to guide them to the right texture. Because if you put someone in raw Indian hair who doesn't want to maintain it, they're going to come back unhappy, and that reflects on you. When I say maintenance is subjective. What someone considers high maintenance, someone else can actually find this normal and very manageable. It's just like your 4C hair. So the lesson is not every texture is for every client. And part of your job as a good wig maker is understanding who wants what. It's just business. And that leads perfectly into something else that I learned the hard way. Because even when you get the right wig for the right clients, you can still ruin it with this one mistake. Let me ask you something. How many products do you put on your wigs before you style them? Because if the answer is more than 4, we need to talk. I see this all the time. People grabbing the hair protection, then the mousse, then the serum, then the hairspray, and they go on with layers and layers of products. And then they wonder why the hair looks crunchy, why the hair is stiff, why the hair has lost its movement. Here's what happens, especially with raw Indian hair. If you go in with too much hairspray, you're not holding the hairstyle, you're turning the hair frizzy. You're unfortunately creating the exact problem you were trying to prevent. And this isn't just an Indian hair thing. Across all textures, you shouldn't be weighing your wig down with too much product. Some hair textures can handle a light spray, some will only need a tiny mist, and some hair texture, it only needs your hands and a bit of oil, and that's it. The rule is simple, less is more, 2 or 3 products before styling. And if you're reaching for hairspray, make it a light one, especially when you're working with raw hair. Because if you're going too heavy, you're going to create a build up and freeze, and the wig is going to look worse than where you started, especially when your client wears it out. It's going to look so frizzy and puffy, and people wonder if they're wearing raw hair or synthetic. Now, everything I've talked about so far has been about hair itself, but there's a whole nother side of wig making that always catches people out, and that is unfortunately construction. And look, if you're sitting there thinking, I need to get my foundation right before I even start touching a wig, don't worry, I've got something for you. I have put together a free wig starter kit. It's got a list of my favorite products, my recommended sewing machine. It's also got a pricing calculator so you actually know what to charge, and a guide on how to find vendors. It's completely free, link in the description. But let's keep going, because the next one is going to save you from a very awkward client conversation. If you're making custom wigs and you're using the same measurement for every single client, I need you to listen to this very carefully. We all know that standard 22-inch circumference, the front to nape, from ear to ear, and for a lot of clients that actually works. But I've had situations, and I'm talking about real client orders, where someone had a 23-inch circumference, but a front to nape was actually 12.5 inches, which is unusual, and that doesn't match the standard at all. And what happens when the measurements are off? The wig doesn't sit right. It shapes, it feels loose in some places and tight in a different place. And your client is going to tell you the wig is bad, when actually your construction was fine, your styling was fine, but the only problem here is the measurements was wrong. So here's what I do now. If a client says that the wig doesn't fit properly and I know that my work was good, I get on a video call with them. I walk them through measuring their head, their circumference, every single thing. And you'll be surprised at what you find, because some people genuinely have a different edge shape that requires custom sizes. And if you insist on a standard measurement, you're going to lose that client. But now I need to talk to you about the thing that genuinely made me wonder why, and that's color. Let me paint you a picture. You've got your formula, you've used it before, it worked perfectly the last time. Beautiful result. So you use the exact same formula on another wig, same developer, same timing, same everything. You washed it, you dried it, and the color comes out completely different. And you're sitting there like, what happened? I did everything right. I timed this right. I used the exact same formula. But here's what happened. The hair is different. Even if it's from the same vendor, the processing is different. The donor is different. See, when you buy bundles, especially raw hair, you're constructing bundles into a wig from multiple donors. So usually a bundle will be one donor. So you're kind of constructing this wig with multiple different donors. Each donor's hair will or may be slightly different. In this case, some bundles may lift quickly and some bundles will take forever. And here's the worst one, henna. Some hair has been dyed with henna before it even gets to you. And the vendors, look, some of them know, but they've got a donor that is willing to sell. So they take the hair, they mix it with everything else, and now you're a few hours in trying to bleach this hair, but it's not lifting. It's unfortunate, but it does happen more than you would think. So the lesson here is you have to understand that some hair will take time to lift. You also have to understand color theory. You need to know when you need to neutralize, when you need to balance, because sometimes a hair color will not give you the same result every single time. And that's not your fault, because obviously you can't predict everything, but knowing how and when to adjust, that's basically your responsibility. And if color caught you off guard, wait until I tell you about curl pattern, because this one actually trips people up constantly. You order your bundles and when it arrives, it looks right, but then you wash the hair, it looks completely different. Or one bundle in the set has a completely different curl pattern from the other 2 bundles. And the reason is the same that I told you, mixed donor. The head basically comes from different people, so which means that the curl pattern will never look the same. However, if you've washed the bundles and then you can see that the curl pattern has literally stretched out, or it looks completely different from what you have, it means the hair has either been steamed to get that curl pattern and it wasn't steamed correctly, or the hair is being chemically processed. Now, when the hair is steamed, it's not a bad thing. It just means that you need to be aware that the hair is a steamed hair rather than the natural curl pattern. And if you didn't expect that, you're panicking. You're trying to force the curls to match and it's not working, especially the laces like the closures and the frontal. The lesson here is when it comes to curl patterns, always groom your vendors. Ask them deep questions like, has this hair been steamed? Is this chemically processed? Can you actually make sure that you match the bundles so that they're a bit more identical rather than completely different? Honestly, asking your vendors this question will literally open your eyes to some of them telling you, oh, the hair is only steamed, I don't have natural curl pattern, which will make the hair more uniform. So always grill your vendors so that you can get the truth out of them before the hair gets to you. This next lesson, I wish someone had told me this from day one. Can we just be honest for a second? Your first 10 weeks are going to be rough. And I'm not saying that to discourage you. I am saying that because you need to hear it before you quit. My early weeks, I look back at them and I cringe. The tension was off. The stitch was terrible. The layers, they weren't right. The airlines were, let's not talk about the airlines, but that's completely normal. That's the process. And unfortunately, not everyone shows you that part. You see a finished wig on TikTok and Instagram, and then you think, oh, why am I not there yet? And you think that's where everyone starts. Everyone starts with a messy wig. We're just too embarrassed to post it. The jump in quality between the first and your 100th wig is actually insane. But you only get there by actually going through the ugly stage. So if you're in that stage right now, you're stitching, you're styling, and it's not looking the best, just keep going. It means that you're exactly where you're supposed to be. And speaking of things that only comes with experience, this is one of those lessons that you can't learn from a course. You can only learn it from experience. The client sends you a reference picture, beautiful wig, gorgeous color, and they tell you they want this. And you can tell that this requires a minimum of 4 to 5 bundles, but they're asking you to create this with 3 bundles and a closure. And if you say, yeah, no problem, and then you make something that you think that they want because you feel like you know what they want, you're setting yourself up for complaints. Because what they have in their head and what you've delivered does not match. Part of your job, and I mean a big part, you are translating what the client wants into what is actually achievable with the budget, the time frame, the texture of the hair. And in all of this, you're being honest with them upfront. For example, this look is 5 bundles. You cannot get the same look with just 3 bundles. Now, if you're watching this and you're thinking, I want to actually build a business around this, knowing how to make a wig is a step 1, which you can find my wig making course in the description. But knowing how to price it, where to find your hair, which equipment you actually need, that's what turns this from a hobby into an income. And that's why I made a wig business starter kit for free. It includes my sewing machine recommendation, my favorite product list, and my guide to finding vendors, my actual method that I use to find all of my hair vendors. Honestly, this will really help you, so grab it. The link is in the description. If this video helped you and you grabbed 1 or 2 from the lessons that I shared, do me a favor and just hit the like button. If you do have any questions or if you want me to create videos on anything, you can just leave it in the comment section. Thank you so much for spending your time with me, and I'll see you soon.